1, 2. Testicles 1, 2. I got testicles 1, 2. They seem to be working. What's up, Fort Smith? It's King James. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I live in a little town called Stigler, America. Before I get started, I would like to share with y'all, I'm going on 3.5 years since I injected methamphetamines in my body. Yeah, my life's gotten a lot better since I quit shooting meth in my penis. I tell you what, it's gotten a lot better. Things are going better now. I have a friend, he's a gynecologist. I think that'd be a great job, right? Well, he was telling me one day he was having a bad day, and he thought it was his last patient, right? And he's trying to clean up and get out of there, and his nurse comes in there and is like, "You got one more patient, I don't know what you're doing." He's like, "All right, send her in." But he's having a bad day. Like, every girl that came through there was fat, ugly, old. Their vaginas were just tore up, looked like Arby's roast beef sandwiches. It looked like chewed up bubble gum. It looked like scrambled eggs, you know what I'm saying? It was a bad day for him, you know what I mean? So he's just trying to get through there. And so he tells her to come in, and he don't even look. He's putting his gloves on, and she's like, "Hi, doctor." And he's like, "Yeah, hi." He goes, "Go ahead and just get in the stirrups and get naked and everything." And so he turns around, he looks at her, and he's like, "Oh my God." He's thinking to himself, "This is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life." And he examines her vagina, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is the most beautiful vagina, most tightest vagina that I've ever come across." And that's saying a lot to be a gynecologist, right? So he's like, "Oh no, oh no." And she's looking down at him. She's like, What, doctor?" She goes, "Well, I'm gonna have to numb it." She goes, "Numb it? Well, do whatever you need to do, all right?" He goes, "All right." Numb, 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 numb. Man, I went to jail in Fort Smith back in the beginning of May, and Fort Smith jail sucks, man. And every time I go to jail, I find out somebody's pulling chains. That's like you've been sentenced to prison, and you're just waiting county to go to prison. And I found out this dude was going to pull chains. I was like, "Hey, I heard you're pulling chains next week." And he's like, "Yeah, I hope so, man." Like, "Man, I hope they stay together when you get there." And he's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Your butt cheeks." Man, there was a guy in there, he was so gay. Like, I heard he was in prison. Yeah, I heard he was in prison, and he was dropping liquid soap in the showers. Like, "Oops, I dropped my liquid soap." Oh yeah, don't drop your liquid soap in the shower with a bunch of men. It's bad. But yeah, man, I remember when I was like 21, I went on a date with this girl in a wheelchair. I didn't really want to go out with her. She's like 19, 20, but she was beautiful. Her personality just made it even more. It's like, what, screw it, let's go out. So we went cruising in my truck, in the old truck, and we're drinking, and we're in the bottoms, and we're smoking, and having a good time, conversation's going good. So she puts her hand on my leg, and she's like, "Why don't we go down to the orchard? And I'm going to show you my favorite apple tree where I like to go." And I was like, "All right, bet." So we cruise down to the orchard, and I get her out of the truck and get her in a wheelchair, and we're under the apple tree, and there's some limbs growing pretty low, and it's pretty cool and everything. We're having a great time, and she takes the bottle from me, takes a big old shot, hands it to me, and pulls her shirt off and her bra off, and jumps up and grabs the tree branches, and she's like, "Fuck the shit out of me right now, take my panties down." So I look around like, all right, so I do my thing, and it was awesome. So I load her back up in her wheelchair, get her back in the truck, load the wheelchair back. We're going back to her house, and I'm trying to be quiet in my old truck, but it's got an old cammed out motor in it, and I'm going down this big old long driveway, so, squeaking and all that. So I get her up on the front porch. I try to get her out. Well, first I get her out of the car, and I'm trying not to make so much noise with the wheelchair and shutting the door and all that. So I get her on the front porch. The light comes on. I'm like, "Oh man, here we go." And her dad's like, "Get in the house, young lady." And she gets in there and he goes, "Before you leave, young man, I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh man." He's like, "I would like to shake your hand and thank you." And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because most guys just leave her hanging in the tree, and I gotta go get her." Have you ever heard of doing the doggy style? Yeah, that's where you're doing the doggy style, and you stick in the wrong hole, and she looks back and goes, "Eh, eh, eh." Or no, you got a freak when you stick in the wrong hole, and she looks back and goes, "Eh, eh." That's the kind I like. Before I go though, if you got any dogs, tell them I said, and if you got a cat, tell them I said, "Thank you, King James Comedy."